Hey, YouTube. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about a book that I'm listening to on tape, and it is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. And I've been listening to it, I'm about a quarter of the way through. And it has got some really wonderful information in there. Some of the things are fairly life-changing, potentially. One of the things that I've mentioned before that when you are growing and becoming something much bigger or better than yourself, it takes a long time to get there. And I'm pretty sure that in one of the previous videos, Simon Sinek had a quote that says it takes a long time to be an overnight success. And so, with that in mind, I'm definitely agreeing with that. And the little habits that I do are going to eventually propel me into a successful position. So, one of the things that I do is, and I've been made fun of this for a long time, I don't pay attention to the news. And I feel like it's a lot of negativity. I feel like it's a lot of information that I can't do anything with. I have no ability to change elections or wars or anything like that. And that doesn't mean that I should be an ill-informed human being, but I talk to people who do spend the time to learn about it, and then I get the Spark Notes version of that. And as long as those people are intelligent and want to do the research on that kind of stuff, and their goals and values and morality is a mirror or similar to my own, I think that I would be then, it's like I get to skip an entire area of life where everyone else is reading newspapers or reading blogs or doing whatever they're doing to get their information, and I just get to go straight to, oh, all right, well, this is probably going to be my opinion, and if I really care about something and I really want to know something about it, then I'll go and do some research myself. But for the most part, I don't pay attention, because I don't have an impact on most of that stuff. So I feel like it's not as important. And I know, perhaps that's weird or perhaps that's wrong, but it's what I do, and I've been doing it for a long time. And in Tim Ferriss's book, he actually talks about how you should totally do that, or he recommends it. So to each their own. Another thing, he talks about making sure that you don't multitask, and I multitask all the time. And I even know, it's funny, I've done some research into multitasking and how there a lot of times when you multitask, you're actually doing a job. You're doing one job, and then you're switching to do something else, and then you're switching back and forth between those. So your brain actually doesn't have the option or the opportunity to focus in on. And yes, some people are excellent at doing that. Some people get really good at multitasking, even though it's really focusing on one and then focusing on the other, back and forth. So even though that's a thing, it's much better to just focus on one thing. So he talks about how instead of doing a whole, eating your breakfast while you read the newspaper, while you're listening to a podcast, focus on one thing at a time. He also says that at night before you go to bed, no screens, and he's got a lot of really interesting things to try and eliminate busybody work, like the busyness that I've talked about in the past, where people fill their time up with whatever. And I think that's me. I think that's me too. I try to do the best thing in every minute, every moment. I'm trying to do the thing that's going to get me ahead or help somebody around me or help myself or whatever it is that I'm trying to do in the moment. But I think that I end up doing a lot of things where I'm just doing it for the busyness of it. And so one of the things he talks about in the book, Tim Ferriss talks about the 80-20 rule and how 80% of anything comes from 20% of anything. Or so, for instance, 80% of your headaches probably come from 20% of the concerns in your life. Or 80% of your joy probably comes from 20% of the activities in your life. Or you can apply to anything. And so with that in mind, he recommended that you take a very realistic, very serious look at your own life and figure out what 20% of your life is the most productive things that you're doing, and focus on those things. So that's my plan. I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on my 20% that's actually productive, which is for me like social media or my hustles, while also he's a pretty big proponent of your time off. And I think everyone is a pretty big proponent of like making sure you take time off, not just overcommitting to everything, and not just you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just not possible. And so when you take your time off, you should make sure that you're actually getting it. So I think that as a human that's not very moderate, I need to work on that too. So there's some thoughts and ideas on the 4-hour work week. Every day is a good day for discipline. Have a good night.